Hello from the sunny Spain today, very hot and very happy that we're back on track on the webinar, the very last one in July. And we've got today a specialist in the panel. We've got Marco from 𝒄𝒏𝒂𝒓 in Spain. Hello, Marco.
Hi, how are you?
We've got on the other side, 𝒄𝒐𝒏𝒕𝒆𝒏𝒕 from 𝒄𝒐𝒏𝒕𝒆𝒏𝒕. Hello, Jeff, how are you?
Hi, Ignacio. Yes, I'm doing well, thank you.
And we've got back again, thanks to Pedro. He's back again. Hello, Pedro. How are you today?
Hello, Ignacio. Good afternoon.
Right, today we're going to talk about buying a property in Spain and the importance of you knowing all the legal tips about before you put any money down. As you know, in the situation now about buying a property in Spain is being very popular. For some reasons, there are a lot of people interested in investing. Some people think that is because of the COVID. Some people willing to come over to Spain to invest money. And today, we're going to talk about all the legal process, all the legal tips that you need to know about buying a property in Spain. Marco will speak today about what kind of products there are available in the market and whether we can make some money with them or not, all the ins and outs. And on the other side, Pedro will tell us about how to buy a property in Spain, all the legal tips through your independent lawyer. And as last, we've got Jeff from 𝒄𝒏𝒂𝒓. He will tell us all the tricks we need to know about currency exchange, why we need to know certain things, how can we benefit of his wise advice. Okay, so we're going to start with a video about buying a property in Spain, and then we'll jump onto Marco, Jeff, Pedro, and then we'll do questions and answers about different topics, like, for example, the TRE, which he came to force very recently in July, and I'm sure everybody might have some questions. Juanfran, over to you about buying a property.
Buying a property in Spain. There are many reasons to purchase a property in Spain. The climate, the food, the culture, or simply to enjoy life. If you already see yourself buying the house of your dreams in the Mediterranean, it is important to be cautious and follow a series of steps. First, prepare a budget and take into account all the possible expenses. Remember to add transfer tax or VAT to the sale price, as well as legal fees, notary fees, and land registry fees. And even if it was love at first sight, do not rush or sign anything. The most important thing, especially if you're not yet a Spanish resident, is to hire an independent lawyer, a specialist who speaks your language and solely defends your interests. Together, you can review the characteristics of the house, should it have pending charges, negotiate a mortgage with the banks, and you will always be up to date throughout the whole process. But most importantly, fall in love with your property and do things by the book. Your new life starts there. PELLICER HEREDIA, international lawyers.
Okay, that's very good. Thank you for that, Juanfran. I must insist here today that over the years that Pedro and myself, and unfortunately Michael couldn't make it today from Oaxaca, we've been experimenting a lot of problems on the conveyancing, okay? People might think it's very straightforward. Buying a property in Spain is not complex, it's not difficult, but you need to do things properly, by the book, and with independent legal advice. Otherwise, you could fall into a scenario that you might end up into court cases or situations that you never planned for, okay? So, very important, before you put any money down, to find an independent lawyer and do the due diligence that Pedro later on is going to explain to us. Marco, now you are from 𝒄𝒏𝒂𝒓 in Spain. Could you please explain to us your background, who you are, what you do and what is a good moment to buy property in Spain. Over to you,
Yeah.
Mark.
Yeah, thank you, Ignacio. Yeah, I've been working in the real estate market over 15 years now. As you say, I'm the CEO of TU Property in Spain, as well as other companies, all of them working in the real estate sector. At the moment, there is a great situation to invest in property, especially in Alicante. We are seeing how we can get great yield returns, on average 6.5, 7%. I'm talking about net yield return, also with non-payment insurance that can guarantee the yield. So I would like, if it's possible, to Juanfran to introduce the video. Juanfran, por favor, si puedes introducir el video.
During periods of financial volatility, finding a low-risk, high-yield investment can be difficult. But you'll already know that in terms of uncertainty, the smart money gets put into property. Investing in the right property can set you up for a financially secure future, giving you a great return on your investment and earning you money while you sleep. And if that property was located in Alicante, one of Spain's and Europe's most popular holiday destinations, perfect. There's never been a better time to invest in the Spanish property and rental market. Demand for rental homes has been rising ever since 2008, and the yield on rental properties now ranges between 6 and 9%. The cost of purchasing a property is low compared to other European countries, and Spain allows insurance to be taken out against non-payment of rent, further securing your investment. Working with 𝒄𝒏𝒂𝒓 will make the whole investment process easy. Wherever you are in the world, we can obtain your property and start earning you a return on your investment in 4 simple steps. 1. Register free with 𝒄𝒏𝒂𝒓 and browse detailed information about the available properties. 2. Contact us to arrange a live virtual viewing so you can see the property wherever you are in the world. 3. Ready to buy? One of our independent lawyers will finalize the process, making sure you have all the required legal guarantees and protections. 4. Our property management service will rent the property on your behalf, doing all the hard work so you can earn an effortless passive income. Are you ready to invest and secure your future? Register now for free.
Thank you, Juanfran. So, as you can see, Ignacio, the idea is to set up a way where buyers can buy a property in Spain without to be actually in Spain. With the help of independent lawyer, as your firm, as your company, will make the process very easy and very simple. That means someone can be living in London, for example, and can buy a property in Spain without being in Spain and getting right away after signed deeds, we rent out the property so the new owner can have the rentability expected. We make sure to break down all the costs so that the buyer can know in advance how much actually will spend on the property plus on all the equipment needed in order to rent the property. Therefore, we can offer a net yield which 99% will be that yield we set in advance. If you allow me, I would like to share a PDF document. Is it possible, Ignacio?
Yes, please go ahead.
Thank you. So it will be very, very quick. Let me see. Yeah. So, for example, this will be an example. In this case, we offer investment property 50% cash, 50% mortgage. The mortgage can be taken even we now came to Spain. this can be managed. For the investor, like I said, we now came to Alicante. So in this example, we can see that the purchase price is 88,000 euros. And we say that the down payment will be 44,000 euros. We have the price for a square meter and all the taxes and also the water and electricity. In this case, we don't need to make any improvement to this property. It's ready, actually it's rented at the moment, so it's sell with the tenants. And we also consider the annual fixed cost. So the investor will know, like I said, in advance, how much will be the cost of the property. Therefore, we have the gross rent, which is in this case 11,520 euros, and the net rent first year, which will be 8,666.45 euros. Like I say, this is an example where there is more information, but just I would like to show a piece of information to show that the investor, I mean, this is hours of work where probably, as you say, Ignacio, to buy a property in another country, I mean, you need to take a professional to do that. No, you need, of course, a estate agent, but you need also a solicitor, which is a great thing to do it, because for us it's even more easy to do the process, because we know the final buyer will get the deal done without any problem, which is something we love, to do things in the right way, and also to have the peace of mind, everything has been done according to the law. And well, if you have any questions or...
Yeah, Marco, could you please share again the same sheet, because I thought it was quite interesting. I would like what you're suggesting here, or you're saying that the project that you have is you work in the Alicante city basically to start with. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
And then basically the investment that you're suggesting, I'm sure you have a variety, but you gave an average of 88,000 euros, and the profit on the income that you expect you as a buyer, or anybody as a buyer, is 8,000. So we're pretty much talking about 10% net. Is that correct?
Is that correct? Yeah,
right.
This is
pretty good, doesn't it?
It is pretty good. This is actually a real example. I mean, this property is getting this income right now.
Right, and this is a real case that you're already dealing with. Is that correct?
That's correct. Okay,
which I understand. Later on, Pedro now will tell us a little bit about the process of buying a property in Spain. But I consider it's very good, and especially for those who are listening, who are becoming fiscal residents in Spain, or they're already fiscal residents in Spain. The good benefit of it will be that on their income tax return, on the rent, if it's long-term, because Marco, you're talking about long-term rental, correct?
That's correct, long-term rental.
Right. Well, in Spain, 60% of the net is not taxable, and will only be taxable 40% of the net as income tax return, which means, looking at your figures, Marco, that 40% of 8,000 euros will be only taxable in Spain according to the sliding scale, personal sliding scale of every individual and special circumstances, correct? Okay, that's very good. I really consider it's good to look at it. And Marco, later on you will tell us if somebody else has more information, where can they find? Now, going back on track to say how important it is to buy property. So let's say we already decide to buy a property in Spain, whether it's a main residency or whether it's second property. Okay, Pedro, now what would you recommend to the clients after appointing a lawyer, what will be the legal tips that you will do, the due diligence? Over to you, Pedro.
Okay, thank you, Ignacio. Okay, well, let's start with the process of buying a property. How is the decision of a client whenever they decide to buy a property or other? Whenever, I mean, of course, they contact the estate agents, they go around with them, and at the end, they find the house of their dreams, the house they want to invest, and get some income, or to invest in a second holiday home for vacation, whatever. Once they decide, normally, this is the point, even though we recommend always to contact a lawyer before this decision starts, this is the point when, whenever they decide, is the point whenever they instruct or they contact to a lawyer in order to guide them on the process of buying a property in Spain. And it's a good point because, of course, we always recommend before making any payment, we recommend to, before any payment is done, of course, for us to make a due diligence. Even though, having said that, it is important to say that, of course, when I wants to make a deposit and put the property out of the market, we always recommend to pay that deposit to the estate agent, and of course, instruct us in order to guide them and to make a due diligence, to be transparent, to be clear on the information about the property before it's made for payment like 10% or 20%. Normally, it's paid a deposit of 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 euros to start, as to put the property out of the market. Is paid. This amount is paid into the estate agents normally. Everything, of course, can be agreed. Then instructing a lawyer and having an agreement with the vendor, and of course about the conditions, the completion, the payments, the price, and everything into a private contract. And before signing that, the lawyers, and this is what we do, of course, we make a due diligence in order to see perfectly what is the situation about the property. We check land registry, if there is any charges, we check who is the ownership, we check cadastro, we check at the end all the charges and situations like charges possibly in water company, electricity company, mortgages, land registry situation about if there is any encumbrances. And at the end, we check perfectly all the charges possibly in order to say to the client, everything is okay, peace of mind, go ahead, and we recommend you to buy this property perfectly. So at that moment, it is sign the contract, is paid 10%, 20%, normally it's 10%, and then the rest of the money, the other 90%, if it's with a mortgage, some part of the money will come from a mortgage or not, then will be a completion date, which will be everything finalized, and at the end we get the ownership of a property. So this is basically the process. Is a depositor to the estate agent or to the lawyer. Then during that is instructing a lawyer before signing the private contract. Everything, all the due diligence must be done on that time, and this is what we recommend always before paying a higher amount of, let's say, 10%, and then completion date. Completion date is also a crucial moment. Of course, is the handling the keys, signing the notary deed into a notary, public notary office, and paying normally is 90%. Sometimes it's a bank involved, so it's a process, of course, where lawyers, and in this case we are specialized on this kind of transactions. We help the client to, at the end, to peace of mind, doing everything by the book, as it's been said by the video, and at the end clarify any point that may arise. Of course, clients, whenever they buy a property, is always linked on the questions about if it's investment, what kind of taxes I'm going to pay, according to the purchase, of course, what kind of taxes are going to be. And this is always, whenever a client contacts us, I'm going to buy a property of 100,000 euros, I'm going to buy a property of 200,000 euros, we always inform which is going to be real budget, because there are costs involved, like transmission tax or value add tax or stamp tax, notary fees, land registry fees, if they instruct us, of course, our fees. And of course, the client needs to know from the very first beginning, which is going to be the costs and the budget in order to start on the process of buying that property that they have decided.
Sorry, thank you, Pedro. Very, very interesting. I've got Dean Abraham asking here for the cost of a mortgage payment. Marco, could you share your screen back again? He's asking whether you did budget it there, the mortgage payments. Do you put it on the screen on that sheet, or you saying that the income was 8,000, the net rent is 8,000, but obviously you need to mention that. Do you have a figure about how much would it be the mortgage fees for 44,000 euros? Do you have an idea?
Yes, I have an idea. I can have a look at the numbers in a minute, but I can tell you, well, it will depend on the how much time will be given the mortgage. For example, for 10 years will be more or less about 250 euros per month. And as well, on the net rent first year income, we have deduct the interest from the mortgage. We like to be very, very transparent and very honest with the numbers. And when we make the calculation of the rentability, we also consider the interest of the mortgage. So we deduct that interest in order to get the net yield. There is a few more expenses that unfortunately we cannot calculate because it will depend of the person who requests the mortgage, such as life insurance, or if the bank maybe requests a commission to give the mortgage. They are not big expenses, but maybe we talk about on average between 1,000 to 3,000 euros. But this is only the only figures we cannot consider, because yeah, I think it will be the best to do by individual, no? I mean,
yeah,
if we have an investor, we request the information we need from it, and then we ask the bank for the mortgage. We get the final numbers, and then we can provide, if it needed, a very specific net yield, which is I think very, very important.
Well, basically, Marco, this is just a rough idea, correct? Is basically for an investor to know basically what to face. We're talking about here probably 10%, but even if you didn't get to that 10, what you're saying, that is quite accurate. Is that correct, Marco?
It's very, very quite accurate. It's, yes. Good. We are very proud of it because, sorry to interrupt you, I will say it is much more accurate that it is the market used to do it. I mean,
right.
So,
good.
Yeah.
Right. We'll keep that sheet later on when there are more questions. I hope Dean, Marco answered to your question. Pedro, we normally speak about an average budget for the clients when they decide to buy a property in Spain. Roughly, to give a gross figure, we're talking about 13%, isn't it? Because it's normally a property, and then you include transfer tax, notary fees, register fees, and solicitors fees.
Yeah, that's right.
Is it rough okay, Pedro? 13%
well,
of these people
even though it's a good point that you're saying, of course, as I said before, it is important, I mean, whenever you are decide to buy a property, whatever the price you have agreed with the vendor or the agent, to know which is going to be really the final budget. So, yeah. And then it's include, of course, the costs of the taxes, and transmission tax or value-added tax. If it's value-added tax, then it's included also stamp tax, which is another 1.5% if it's not permanent resident, and the notary fees and non-registered fees or lawyer's fees. So at the end, and this is my calculations really whenever there is no mortgage, appears to be around 12%, 12.5%. Of course, it's been like a different, I would say, different scenarios right now with banks. In the past, all the costs regarding the valuation or regarding notary fees, land registry fees, and many of the costs for the mortgage were paid directly by the buyer. Which at this time, many of the banks, they offer all these costs that are paid by the bank. Of course, you will pay all the interest to the bank to pay that, and they will negotiate with these circumstances. As at this time in Spain, all the mortgage loan information is very, I would say, is very secure. There are different phases to sign a mortgage deed. First thing is, some days before the mortgage deed is signed, the client needs to be, or your lawyer with a power of attorney, you need to stay in the notary office, be duly informed by a notary, by the bank, which are perfectly the conditions that you're going to sign. And then, of course, that will be transmitted into whenever the mortgage deed is going to be signed. But I would say, I mean, this is my opinion, whenever we made the budget at that time, is you are correct about this 30%, 13%. I would say probably, I mean, in general, I would say that figure, but in my experience, it's a little bit less than that.
Sorry. Thank you, Pedro. Marco, actually, you always concentrate, your project is being concentrated. We've got different, Pedro, we've got different type of properties here. I guess Marco is just showing here like for investors, but Marco, you still think is an urban land, well, urban land is in Alicante city, and that's roughly the idea to live in the city, correct? Like a minimum investment, but especially to be rent out. Obviously, you didn't take into consideration inland, correct? In the rural area, is that correct? That's not your project, is that correct?
That's correct, yeah.
Okay. Now, okay, once people either decide to buy a property for themselves, as Pedro said, or even as an investment, as Marco suggested, then we end up with appointing an independent lawyer, which probably will be the best decision, so you don't make any mistakes on anything, as we sometimes, unfortunately, see these things happening, okay? Now, the lawyer is being appointed, you would like to do a deposit, put a deposit down, you're going through everything, and I need to transfer the money from my home country. Jeff, I'm sure you could give us some tips of advice and tell us about what you guys do, why should I contact you, what will you do for us as a buyer, and what benefit can we get from it? Is there any point of choosing the banks and all this? Can you give us a little bit of information on that, Jeff? Over to you.
Well, thank you very much, Pedro. Good evening, everybody. Yeah, a lot to think about there. So in terms of key currency, one of the questions you asked there, Ignacio, was why use us? Very good question. We are a privately owned broker based in the UK. So we are fully authorised and regulated by the Financial Conduct Authority, which is the same regulatory body as indeed the banks are. So, we're right up there with the best, if you like. The difference between using a broker, particularly key currency, is not only the rates of exchange that are available to the registered client, but also the timing of transferring funds. So we offer a one-to-one service. We would onboard a client, which is something we have to do to be in line with the FCA regulations. And once that client is registered with us, they get allocated their own account manager, and they're able to talk to that person directly. There's no gatekeepers to that person. They have total access to that person, and they can work hand in hand with that person to make sure that we monitor the currency markets for them and get the best deal that is available at the time. One of the things that Marco and Pedro have been talking about is obviously how much things cost. One of the best ways of understanding how much a property is going to cost you in terms of your own currency. So, for example, if you're a Brit and you're holding pounds, the best thing you could do is to look at what's called a forward contract. So you could easily purchase your euros, in this case, up front, and at that point of purchase, you know exactly how much the property that you're going to purchase is going to cost in pounds, regardless of the volatility of the market. And believe me, the market is pretty volatile at the moment. Particularly, we've had years now of Brexit, and now we've got this dreadful pandemic. It doesn't really help any currency at all. So the market is very volatile. So we can help clients like that. As I say, we are privately owned. Our rates are between 3.5% and 5% cheaper than the banks. So, on 100,000, we would be looking at saving the client anything between £3,500 and £5,000 for that transfer, which is, a serious amount of money for people to actually save. And of course, there are no fees and there are no commission payments on top of that. What we talk about in terms of the rate is what you get in your account. So, we're pretty good on that basis. One of the most important things to a client is how safe their money is. Because we're regulated by the FCA, our client funds are held in safeguarded, segregated accounts. So, whatever happens out there, the client's funds are always safe and always accessible to the client. That's a really important thing. Most clients that we deal with, they've worked all their lives to buy something in Spain, and it's very important to them that their money is safe. And that's something that we pride ourselves on a great deal, and that can be realised by people looking at our Trustpilot, for example, which is something that's very well known here in the UK, and we've got one of the best ratings of a currency broker currently out in the UK. So we do very well for the client. We're very client focused.
Okay. Thank you very much, Jeff. So basically, let's say I would like to buy a property. I contact your company and I register with you guys. How much time would it take you to transfer the money from the UK account to my Spanish lawyer or Spanish client account or Spanish bank account of the client? Jeff, what is the normal timing?
So, yeah, very good question, Ignacio. We are able to do same-day payments. As long as we have funds on account from the client, then we are able to transfer from their holding currency to euros, in this case, on the same day.
Okay, that's very good. Okay, we are going now on the questions. Some of them are quite interesting. Now, Peter Morley is, hello Peter, he's saying he definitely is thinking of moving to Spain permanent. Okay, so now I know there is some people here asking about TIE. I did put in the, upload it in the chat here on the Zoom meeting, just an article we wrote about TIE. I will not like to bore you with this, but the TIE, there is two now types that the UK nationals will have. One will be for you, the existing residents that they are under the withdrawal agreement before the 31st of December. Our recommendation will be to swap it. It's not compulsory, and you could do it yourself if you want. It's a little bit complex because you will need to apply for an appointment if you're already resident, or do it through your digital certificate. You need a photo, your passport, your residencia, and your padron. You pay a 12 euros fee, and then after the appointment, you'll be given a time, a number, where you could exchange that number with your credit card size TIE. That's for those who are already resident and would like to consolidate that you are under the withdrawal agreement. Again, it's not compulsory, it's an option, but it's always good to have yourself, your rights protected. On the other hand, for those like Peter is saying here that they would like to move to Spain permanent, my recommendation today will be, if you're really committed to go, I recommend to put things in motion. What is that? Because you'll have two possible scenarios. The one under the withdrawal agreement before the 31st of December of this year, and for those who go after the withdrawal agreement. For those who are after, we really don't know what the requirements are going to be, whether the UK and Spain will reach an agreement or not. We can only tell you the experience, how it was with the Americans, with the Australian, with the Canadian, the third country citizens, okay, which is a much complex case, and we really don't expect that happening, but we don't know. For those who are applying for the residencia permit, TRE, fresh and new as the first time, is like it was before. You will need to have at least 9,000 euros per person in the Spanish bank account for at least 3 months. You will need to have your health insurance unless you are retired and you've got the S1. And you need to have obviously the photo, your padron, obviously pay a local fee, 12 euros, and then make an application. And this way is through a digital signature. We could do it for you, any lawyer could do it for you. And then after that, you get a letter from the administration saying you did comply with the requirements, and then you'll be given a date for you to have a fingerprint at the police station, give you the credit card size with your photo, and then you'll have your TIE. Our recommendation, if you're committed to do it, I think it will be best to do it now rather than later. Obviously, we will recommend you as well to do the tax planning, which I'm sure Pedro could tell us a little bit about it, how important it is to do the tax planning before you commit yourself. Pedro, would you like to give some points about that subject? Because we didn't.
That's really important, and it's something that, of course, with our tax department we manage many clients, and they do it correctly before. Not just buying a property, you can buy a property and be non-resident, but before moving to Spain as a resident, permanent resident, I mean, they check and they do it correctly in order to know what are going to be the taxes, what is going to be the obligation on tax office whenever I move to Spain to be resident in Spain. And this is, of course, what we do is we study of all the income, or what are the expectations are going to be the income in the following year. Sometimes the income right now is some amount of money, but in the following years they're going to receive some other pensions because they get into the 65 years old or any other pensions. And at the end, what the client wants to know, what are going to be the process of, at the end, stop other countries in order to be retained some money and get paid gross amount into the pensions or any other payment, and what are going to be the taxes to be paid in Spain accordingly to those incomes. Of course, what we check and we study and we inform the client and we discuss with the client, of course, because we have to know exactly which is the situation about the client, is the international conventions on in order to avoid double taxations. Of course, it is our obligation in order to make a strategy in order to pay the taxes correctly in the country. That has to be done according to the conventions and not pay any double taxation. Of course, in order to avoid this double tax, these conventions are a must to be studied, and this is what we do with the client. Other thing, of course, there are some financial funds like NISA, like bonds, like 𝒄𝒏𝒂𝒓, or many others in different countries, that sometimes, this is what we've seen by different tax advisors, they understand that most of the money that they receive is income, and we realize that most of the money sometimes is not income. Some part of the money that they get every single month or every year is income, which needs to be taxed and needs to be declared, but some other money is not really income. So what we do is a perfect study about the funds, which sometimes when we don't understand exactly, we apply for all the policy in order to study. We contact the financial institutions to understand really, in order to exactly know what part of the pension, what is going to be the income. Another point, and this is important, and also is asked, and obviously we also inform clients in this time of moving to Spain, clients wants to sell a property in the country where they are coming from, or they are getting some receiving or withdrawing some money, some lump sum of any fund. And of course, clients ask, well, should I do this before or once I move to Spain, once I'm resident in Spain? Well, once you are resident in Spain, you are attracted to pay or declare and pay taxes in Spain. So before moving to Spain or before making any movement regarding like selling a property, we always like to inform, well, this is the situation. If you do it there in your country, you will know exactly with your tax advisor what will be taxes to be paid. But if you do it after, it will be this amount to be paid in Spain, with capital gains tax, for example. Or so it is important to make a really real tax planning on this transition before coming to Spain, and of course instruct a specialized tax advisor on international taxes, and as we are experienced on that. I assume, Ignacio, of course, you have also the same experience as I am with this kind of situation, this transition that clients wants to move to Spain. But of course, it is not just buying a property; it's relocating, and taxes are always a must to be started by the client.
That's fully correct. Thank you very much, Pedro, because actually, the word you just said is relocating. You know, the good thing is that we specialize here on helping people from A to Z. And then the first step will be getting you an NI number, doing the due diligence, buying a property in Spain, then getting you the TRE, probably opening a bank account for those with power of attorney, or even presently here, organizing a mortgage. Now, we've got a question here that we didn't answer from, I think is from Dean. And I'll give you a rough idea about the mortgage cost in Spain as a non-resident. My experience, you're getting now Euribor plus 2.5% if you're a non-resident. That's an average. I'm even seeing even fixed rate of 3% or even a little bit less, but it will really depend whether you're resident or non-resident. Now, for residents, they are giving a much more amount of money. And for non-residents, they are giving up to 60 or 70%. But for residents, they're giving 80. But as Marco mentioned in the project, even you could budget 50% being more than reasonable. So this is something important I forgot to mention with regards to that. Now, the cost of setting up the mortgage, I think Pedro already mentioned there, that the bank is paying for that. You will only pay for the valuation. And now we've got another question about, I think it's Jack Carota, about how much would it cost the due diligence. Pedro, if you would like to answer, what is the cost that your law firm doing a due diligence? And even in case it doesn't go through, is it, do you charge X amount with a maximum of hours, or how does it work, Pedro, when you do
Well, in general terms, of course, there's some differences. Of course, if someone is buying a country property with large square meters in a mountain, or is he buying an apartment? But in general terms, our fees arises to 1% of the purchase price plus value add tax, with a minimum of 1,500 euros. Which means, When someone is buying a property, costs of taxes is 10%, plus notary plus registry normally is around another 1%, plus 1% of our fees is around 12%. This is what I mentioned before. It is around 12%. Sometimes notary and registry is less than 1%. So this is why it should be between 11.80% to 12.10% more or less. And normally it doesn't go more than that. If someone is buying a property, which is a new property, and then needs to be paid value added tax, needs to be paid also 1.5% of stamp tax. So which arises this percentage of purchase price. But our fees is 1% plus value added tax.
Thank you, Pedro. I've got one question for Marco here. It starts with Donna. Marco, is it, do you recommend a specific area in Alicante? For example, the kind of product that you have, is it just to invest and rent, or even can they leave? Are there better areas that you recommend, Marco?
Yes, well, it will depend on the strategy as the investor. For example, if you invest in the center in prime location, you will get less rentability, but on the other hand, probably you will get a higher equity within the years. But if you are looking to get more rentability, better to go to the outside of the city. It will depend on the risk of the investor. I wouldn't say you cannot invest on this area, because Alicante, all areas, there is good areas and bad areas, but in general, there is no a high crime rate, so it will depend actually on the risk want to take the investor.
And Marco, all the properties that you have in your portfolio, they are ready to be rent out basically, or refurbish and rent out. Do you deal with refurbishments as well?
Yes, well, thank you for that question. Our procedure is the following. First, we visit the property, we do a technical report. So we have an architect that go to the property, check the structure is okay, check the property if it needs some renovation or even some equipment. So we calculate that. We calculate if it, for example, needs a fridge or oven, or maybe the bathroom needs some work, or the electricity. We check really everything. After that, we do the commercial report. In the commercial report, we consider the rental we can expect to get from this property, and the cost of the property, the buying cost, plus all the costs we need to get in order to prepare the property to rent, like for example renovation or furniture or white goods. I mean, we consider everything. So we do the legal report, commercial report, and then we are happy that your company do for us the legal report, which is very, very important. I agree the 100% to look for an independent solicitor to do that.
Thank you, Marco. We're running out of time because we're about to reach 7 o'clock in Spain. Jay Lester from Facebook, she's asking, what are the tax implications of selling a house in Spain and using the money to buy a property? Now, this is a very important question, as Pedro said, and I highly recommend you to, you could contact ourselves through video conference, or any lawyer that you wish, an accountant. It's important, if you already have an existing property and you're selling that one and you reinvest into another property, and you use that money to live in the property, that will be exempt in general terms. If you're over 65, the main residency will be exempt. Now, I understand that that's basically what you would like to do. If it's a second property, let's say you have 2 properties and you're selling the second one, that is your main property, the capital gain tax will be 19, 21 or 23, depending on your profit. And that will be taxable in Spain. As Pedro said, there is a double taxation treaty between UK and Spain, And even if you sell in the UK, you can reinvest it to buy a property in Spain here, and you will not be liable to pay capital gain tax. It's important to do and work out the figures, whether you're resident and non-resident. Now, if we carry on, because we are receiving now lots and lots of questions and we're running out of time, unfortunately. Pedro, is there anything else you would like to say? We've got Tony Regan here. He's a good friend. He's saying, is purchasing a property during the current pandemic situation a good idea, or is it better to wait? I would like to have Pedro's and Marcus' opinion. Over to you.
Okay. Well, let me just rapidly. I know we are running out of time. Thank you, Tony, for the question. At this time, I would say that we are getting a lot of instructions by buyers in order to invest and buy properties. As we presume and we understand, they are getting really good opportunities. Of course, if this pandemic goes more and will be, I assume that will be also opportunities in the near future. Probably not the ones who are right now being invested, but I assume that will be also opportunities. But of course, right now the market has not increased a lot. The prices are okay. Has not collapsed. Also, has not reduced really the prices. Even though right now the situation on negotiation is quite good. Also, I would say. But of course, once you decide to buy a property, even though it's an investment or a location, I would try to go on. I will try to negotiate because maybe that opportunity is not going to come in the near future because someone else would invest on that property. Because right now the demand on buying properties has been increased, I would say, in the last 2 months a lot. I don't know because I don't have a crystal ball what is going to happen in the following months. But I assume that the Spain is attracting a lot of investment right now, and we are seeing that in the North Field because we are getting a lot of queries and a lot of instructions right now.
Okay, thank you, Pedro. Running out of time, we've got here I'll just briefly say important things. For example, for Georgia, who's worried about not getting a mortgage and only getting 60%, my recommendation, Georgia, is to shop around. We could probably put you in touch with different banks. My recommendation, if you could become fiscal resident, that will help you a lot to get 80% of the mortgage. If you have some bonds in the States and you could guarantee that money, I'm sure that the bank will give you and lend you more money if you have some equity as well. That's another opportunity. We could introduce you to different ones for you to shop around and get the best deal. I have another question about Peter Morley saying, it's difficult they come across with problems in organizations. What are the risks of investing in such a property? Well, Peter, I think it's best if we could have a conversation. It depends on what kind of urbanization, especially inland. You always need to be very careful. I'm not saying not to invest inland because I think probably, and especially now, I was speaking to an agent recently, prices are going up a little bit, or at least demand is high because of the COVID, and you wouldn't believe it, people want a big piece of land. And that means that demand is going and increasing. July, as Pedro said, is being very hot on commercial properties and buying a property in Spain. We really, as Pedro said, we really don't have the crystal ball. Probably Jeff from Key Currency might have some more information about the markets, even though he says he's very volatile. And just a very last thing about tax. In Spain, the taxation goes from the 1st of January to the 31st of December. If you spend more than 183 days in Spain, then you're considered to be fiscal resident. I highly recommend you to even always seek independent advice. Try to get yourself your certificate from the UK if you're fiscal resident, or here, because tax office might send you a letter. Now, Jeff, would you like us to give us any idea, anything else about the market that probably you have more information than us? Would you like to say anything else before we leave?
Yeah, if you don't mind, Ignacio. Unfortunately, there isn't anybody who can predict the market. But you know, rates are volatile, as I've said already. Just going back to the lady who mentioned about selling in Spain. If someone is selling in Spain and returning to the UK or their home country and not reinvesting in Spain, we do have quite a presence in Spain. We have offices in Spain, as you know. We have people on the ground from Barcelona right the way down the east coast and the south coast of Spain, and we're more than happy to help with anybody who wishes to return funds to the UK or their home country. We have the ability to offset any fees that the banks might charge, so that's something to bear in mind, really.
Thank you, Jeff. Jeff, could you please put in the chat your email and your website so anybody who's interested could contact you?
Yeah.
Mark, could you please do the same? Pedro, how can they find you?
Oh, okay, Ignacio. Of course, I will put in the chat the webpage. We have different offices in the Costa Blanca, from Javier to Moraida. The headquarters where I am right now based is in Alicante. Of course, also we have another office in the down area in Costa Blanca in 𝒄𝒏𝒂𝒓. Of course, we cover all the offices, and we are right now 20 people working with different languages, from English to Swedish to Russian, and we manage in order to help international clients to relocate into Spain, to invest, to advise them on taxes, on immigration issues, and of course we have also a department on also litigations. We cover at the end all the life where a client comes to Spain, and at the end with all kind of different advice from inheritance, wills, and different situations from a legal point of view. I'm going to put in the chat the email where anyone would be able to contact me, and of course the website where there is a lot of information, and of course we will be glad that anyone will like to give us a question, a chat. Of course we will be able to get any appointment by video conference, which we are right now working a lot and very well. Thank you.
Thank you, Pedro. Marco, have you left all your details here?
Yes, I did.
Okay, great. Okay, Juanfran is going to show us today one more video. This is a very nice video that I would like to share with you. It's about a lady, a girl that lives in Spain. The slogan she used, "She could swim for you." She's looking for some sponsors here, but I would like you to share with you the nice life that she has and just an experience to share with you. So Juanfran, could you please?
My name is Chloe and I am 15 years old. I started swimming when I was 2 or 3 years old, and I started competing when I was 7 years old. I train every day after school, 2 hours from Monday to Saturdays, and on Sunday I usually ask my father to go to swim outside too. I always try to follow my dreams, and I always get to achieve them eventually after hard work. I'm always aiming for greater things, and whenever I propose something for myself, I eventually get to achieve them. I swim because when I was smaller, someone told me I wouldn't be able to swim in the sea, that it was like a sport for adults, for older people. But then I began to swim and showed them that I was actually able to do it. And then I didn't notice, but I started to develop a passion for swimming in open waters. So now I keep swimming because I really like it and it's something I need. I feel strong and even powerful, and that makes me stronger mentally and physically. My friends think that I am amazing, I suppose, because they think that it's really difficult to maybe train and study at the same time. If I can do it, they can do it too.
Ella tiene mucha resistencia y mucha estrategia de nado. Ella puede mantener el ritmo durante mucho tiempo sin descansar. Cuando hay gente que a lo mejor sale muy rápida y se agota, pero ella puede mantener un ritmo fuerte desde el principio hasta el final, incluso al final llegar y sprintar y darlo todo.
My dream is to compete again in a national competition and try to go to the World Championship as an international competition. And I propose you something. You help me and I will swim for you.
Okay, well, thank you very much for joining us today. We wanted to share this with you video. We like to help people as well, as we always assist on not only on the legal. I'm sure Jeff from Key Currency and Marco will like to just share this information as well.
Sure.
Pedro, thank you very much for your time, especially that you've been a bit off the record here of work. Jeff, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for the invite. Thank you.
And Marco, I hope you do very good with your project, and I hope you stay busy in the summer, even though it's very hot, okay? Thank you, everyone. And I know in August it's going to be difficult to see each other because we're all going to have a break, but very happy to listen to your questions eventually, or even get back to you. So have a great summer, all of you.
Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
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 Bye-bye.